2026 is finally upon us. That means our January hiatus is underway. What this means is there's not going to be any new traditional episodes that'll be releasing in the month of January. In fact, the only two episodes you can expect are, 1, our Q4 catch-up with Movies and Us, wherein we discuss the last 3 months of 2025, and 2, the Patreon selected movie at the end of the month. No other episodes are scheduled for the month of January, and we'll begin releasing new episodes on a regular basis starting February 2026. That said, if you like the show, consider supporting on Patreon. Any episodes I record during January, they're going to have an early release on Patreon. I'm already in talks to have episodes on Bottle Rocket, The Neverending Story, and of course, Stranger Things Season 5. So if you don't want to wait till those episodes come out in February, consider supporting on Patreon for $3 a month. You'll get access to those episodes the second they become available, plus a lot of other digital benefits too. In the meantime, Happy New Year, and enjoy the episode.
You're listening to Cinematic Doctrine.
Hey, if you just press play, you're missing out on a 27-minute extra discussion. This discussion is on the, as of right now, 3 out of 4 somewhat available Avengers Doomsday teaser trailers. So, if you're not aware, Avatar Fire and Ash is in theaters, and it was advertised that a different Doomsday trailer would play each week. With this in mind, the first trailer that came out was a Steve Rogers coming back trailer. The second one was a Thor and his adopted daughter Love trailer. And then an X-Men trailer, which is the most recent one. We're recording on the 29th of December, 2025. So if there's something new that's come out, you can probably Google it yourself at this point. That discussion is exclusive to Patreon supporters. So if you support on patreon.com/cinematic doctrine for $3 a month, you get access to all the digital benefits that are available to you through Patreon. That's extra discussions at the beginning of different episodes. You get to do a bunch of other things like voting on movies. In fact, this movie we're going to be discussing, The Bishop's Wife, is a movie that was submitted during the submission period, and then it went up against another movie. And Patreon people, man, they voted heavily towards Bishop's Wife. They really wanted to get festive this December, so we obliged. So if you support on Patreon for $3 a month, you can also impact the show and help us decide what to cover at the end of every month. You'll hear about all these other things, all these call to actions or whatever as you're listening to the episode, so I won't bore you with those anymore. We are going to do a movie discussion. Movie discussions are pretty simple. We do two questions or prompts that are not spoiler related. So if you haven't seen The Bishop's Wife, I mean, the movie's from 1947, so this is pretty old. But if you haven't seen it, it's fine. We're going to just talk about kind of the vibes, the feelings, what do we think, what did it evoke in us? And then we'll get into more specific stuff later in the second half with 2 more prompts. We'll make that distinction clear so that if you become interested in the movie, you can check it out before getting into the rest. But if you've already seen the movie or you just don't care that much, stick around. We have some interesting things. I am joined by Kathryn. Welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you. Thank you. We are in this liminal week between Christmas and New Year's, so I hardly know what day it is. I've lost count of the amount of cookies I have made and eaten, and I'm looking forward to kind of capping off the holiday season with The Bishop's Wife.
Yeah, so Patreon supporters submitted Bishop's Wife, then they voted on Bishop's Wife, and so now we are going to talk about Bishop's Wife. Bishop's Wife is a 1947 film from Henry Koster. This was actually nominated for Best Picture. It did not win, but it did get nominated. It does have a win for an Oscar, though. It has Best Sound Recording, Gordon Sawyer, who won that. And the premise is that there is a bishop. This bishop is named Henry, and Henry is trying to rebuild a cathedral. He has a church property, but he's trying to raise funds for a cathedral. He has a lot of people who have promised to pay, but then have either diminished what they were contributing. We're introduced to him by him having this meeting with a woman named Mrs. Hamilton, a rich widow. She desperately wants her dead husband's name to be the name of the cathedral. Henry, however, feels like that would be sacrilege. Then you have Julia, who is the bishop's wife, And she has kind of just been patient with Henry as he's been devoting virtually all of his time to it while she has cared for really the other stuff going on in their lives, including their child. And then a character named Dudley, performed by Cary Grant, shows up. And we learn that Dudley is actually an angel, that when Henry was praying for how God prayed to the Lord, essentially something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, like, guide me to whatever I need to do to get this cathedral built. And then boom, Dudley shows up and is like, yeah, I'm an angel. I'm here to help you out. And so Henry kind of like is skeptical at first. And as Henry is busy taking care of a lot of the preparation for this cathedral and stuff like that, Dudley is then spending time with Julia, because there are a lot of things that Henry said he and Julia would do that then Henry, double books and then chooses to do the work thing instead of the wife thing. And so the movie's kind of like a mix of drama and comedy, but it's mostly just, as I put it, I summed it up, not to get ahead of myself, but it feels like a situational comedy show where instead of it becoming a series, it just took 3 episodes and then shoved it into a single movie, where Julia is going to go do this thing with Henry. Henry can't do it, so now Dudley and Julia go do it. And then that happens like 2 more times. Mm-hmm. There's some other side characters, Sylvester, a cab driver, Professor Wuthridge, who is introduced pretty early on, that both Julia and Henry went to school with, and I think were taught underneath. But I digress. I've been yapping. Go ahead. If you had thoughts, you can go.
Oh, gosh. Well, hearing you say that it won an Academy Award for Best Sound Recording, I could get behind it, because there's some really beautiful scenes here where it definitely feels like classic Hollywood. And there are just some really excellent scenes here with the sound recording where they have like boys' choirs going on, and it felt very lived in. But I mean, yes. more generally, like what I thought of the movie, I'm not much of a holiday movie person, so it's been interesting in the last 2 or 3 years to see both It's a Wonderful Life and then now The Bishop's Wife. Like any genre, there's these story beats and tropes and scenes that you come to expect from a certain type of movie. And looking at The Bishop's Wife, it definitely feels like looking at a source code. There are scenes where you see the framing and you're like, oh, I've seen that before. But that's because you've seen it in a movie that came out 40 years later and was referencing the way that the scene was carried out in The Bishop's Wife. For me, the biggest moment where I thought of that was a scene where Julia was looking at a hat in a display down in town. And I was like, oh, I've seen this in probably like a dozen Hallmark movies to this point, where the lady stops in the middle of town and looks at something and she's like, oh, I'd really love that gift, but I just, I can't get it, or my husband would never get that for me.
like in Hot Frosty.
Yeah, like in Hot Frosty, or even like A Christmas Story, where Ralphie stops and he's looking at the Red Ryder BB gun and he's like, whoa, I really want that. Yeah. So, and there's just moments like that where it was conjuring up memories of movies that were actually just referencing it to begin with. I really do have to say, I love watching these older black and white movies, because just some of the set design, some of the ways that they pulled off special effects, it's just so impressive to see how they do things, and then to kind of reverse engineer it as a movie lover and go, okay, but how did they pull it off? Like the outdoor ice skating scene in this movie was just really gorgeous. And yet I'm also looking for the place where the indoor ice rink meets the backdrop, I'm looking.
Yeah, since we're watching in high definition, it's you can just notice those things. It's cool.
But yeah, the actors really held their weight in the lines and the presence in their scenes. So just super enjoyable.
I'll kick off too with what I liked, and then I guess because I know we both have positives and negatives. What I liked was it's dialogue heavy in a way that I enjoy. I wish it kind of did more, I don't know, serious stuff, and kind of dropped a lot of the comedy and magic stuff that's kind of going on. I know there's not that much of the there are miracles in terms of context, but I'm going to call it magic because
it's angel magic.
It's magic. It's angel magic. But and there's not a ton of it, but there's interesting drama here in its setup that this priest wants to build this cathedral. It's going to be expensive, but to him, he sees it as a monument to the Lord and a location where people will honor him. So there is a long-term, understandable desire that Henry has. But then we see that he's neglecting things that he has promised to do, or perhaps overextending his employees. He's got a secretary that he asks a lot of. And so, like, I kind of wanted to also have the film draw on some, like, okay, this is a very different movie, but Diary of a Country Priest type stuff, where it's just this, like, priest lamenting the hardship of what they believe is a not just a good thing or the right thing to do, but a righteous thing to do.
Yeah.
And then having all of these things kind of go wrong. That's not this movie, but I kind of wish it did a little more of that, because it largely goes the route of the comedy and really just wants to stick to having levity perpetually. But, like, I can just, like, see the drama and how much I want it to make me feel things. And I just didn't get that. I recognize I'm putting this in my what I liked category. Like I said, I liked the dialogue a lot. I think there's great lines. I just wish it maybe did a bit more of this. There are parts of the ending I liked. I didn't love all the stuff in the ending. Obviously, when we get to the ending,
with you.
we'll talk about it. There's just parts of the ending that are like, that felt very human and holistic in how people exist and operate that I liked. I know that's a very strange way to say it, but that's what I can say now without specifics. Professor Wuthridge, I just thought he was a good character. I think his character helps make the movie a better movie. I just think the amount of his character being in the film as sort of he's introduced as a secular, knowledgeable professor in history and other stuff. That addition of a character to a story that is very overtly Christian, or at the very least, I wouldn't say nominally Christian, because there's actually kind of some, I would say, very aware allegories that are being played with here. But the addition of Wuthridge as a secular professor, and just the amount that he's in it, is like perfect. I liked all that. And then the way the film, I just kind of got into it, but the way the film implicitly takes some Christian ideas here are interesting, especially the fact that, like, the film kind of is taking to task this Christian desire to build God's church, which can in itself become an idol, because they take it very literally, as opposed to it being kind of a metaphor for what it is when you are bearing fruit and the natural propagation of those seeds. That, to me, is a more abstract way of understanding building God's church. But as someone who thinks that way, I like that this movie, like, the antagonistic force is Henry's insatiable desire to build this church. And, like, and I don't know, not to be so buzzwordy, but he is doing the whole bodies under the bus type thing, close to it. The movie's obviously more levity. There's not actually any Mark Driscoll-esque type things going on in the film, but it is taking to task this idolization of building the church for one's own purposes. Yeah, and, like, the fact that then that's put in contrast to the goodness of the film, which is about these intimate human relationships, building small scale experiences that maintain healthy friendships, as well as encouraging the flourishing of one's healthy passions, and just making new friends. Like, that as the antithesis to aggressively trying to build this idol, so to speak. I thought that was kind of neat. That's all I think that, like, kind of gives a overview of everything I'll kind of cover throughout this episode, but that's stuff I liked.
Hey, don't forget, there's a lot of fun content missing from this episode because you're not listening on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine and support for $3 a month to gain access to uncut episodes with upwards of 40 minutes of bonus content each. You'll thank me later.
In terms of stuff I didn't like, we'll pause because I want to hear what you didn't like.
Well, I'll be curious to know if we were kind of on the same wavelength with this. The thing I didn't like is this film really did not need to be 2 hours long.
No.
Yes.
It should have been shorter.
I mean, you kind of hinted at it to begin with, where you were like, it feels like there are 3 episodes here, but there are 3 episodes that are essentially kind of the same scenario.
Yes.
And then you get to the ending of the movie, and the ending of the movie feels a little weird to me. So I end there, and I'm like, why did I just spend 2 hours watching essentially the same scenario play out 3 times? The characters I really enjoy, I'm getting in bits and pieces. And then the ending ended the way that it did. So, I mean, I think really at its heart, the film is interested in showing us the nature of Henry as the bishop, his wife, Julia, the professor, and then the rich widow, Mrs. Hamilton. Those are kind of our primary characters, and Dudley's just a conduit through which these characters are able to kind of exposit and like talk about like their drive or like their understanding or their interrelations. What we come to know of Henry's character, because Henry's really kind of like our primary person outside of Julia.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have learned that way more efficiently. And I also did not leave the movie thinking that Henry was really the type of person that his wife and the townsfolk were saying that he was prior to taking on the cathedral project. Like, I just did not connect with Henry's character. And I think that's like to its detriment for me, at least. But were you on the same wavelength? Are there other things that you didn't like?
So on you bringing up the 3 episode type thing again, it's interesting. Like, it didn't click until you said it again just then. But it's as though each episode is teaching you one of those things about what is actually a good thing to do and what is almost quote unquote church building. It's like the first episode is about the small scale experiences of maintaining friendships. And then the next episode is about why you should help in the flourishing of supporting one's healthy, honoring passions. And then the final episode is how making new friends is helpful. And then you get to the ending where it's like, now see what this can do. All 3 done together. And it's just like, I don't know, man. It's 2 hours. It's not paced well for what kind of content is inside this film.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of specifics, it's just a 1-note film. For 2 hours doing all that, that's just pretty tiresome. The trick is that Dudley is just going to be kind to Julia, while Henry is overly committed to this project, and we just kind of see them going on these side quests or meeting side characters or so that to me is like, it's just 2 hours. That's brutal. I need more activity than just the same things over and over. I did not like that Dudley is coded to be like this character you'll step out of the movie really liking, because I actually didn't really like his character. I tried to figure out like why I felt this way. So I've come to really learn about myself over the last year or 2, and perhaps someone will say, listening to the show will say, pot calling kettle black. But like, I really do not like smug characters. I find smug characters very irritating. I've talked about this in our Now You See Me episode from about, I guess, 2 posts ago on the main feed, but about a month and a half ago is when we recorded it. And how the Jesse Eisenberg character is super smug, and it's just insufferable. You just want one of the magic tricks to fail, and he falls off a ladder and gets injured, and he can never talk again. Like, he's so annoying. And Dudley is not smug, but he does know a lot. And so and so because he knows a lot, and also he's an angel, he is coded in the film as always right. Whatever Dudley thinks is the thing that is right and good and moral. And so in the audience, it's like you're being told by the writer of the film or director, whoever's got the final say, what they interpret as right and good or whatever. I get that it can sound like I'm reading a little too much into it, but as a character, I find that frustrating. The last thing I had that I didn't like was Henry might be like in over his head overworking for this cathedral project, but I really wish there were more nuanced scenes wherein he was doing something kind of like kind or good for other people. Like just something righteous, right? Like he is a priest, and I don't need him to be perfect. I like First Reformed Reverend Toller. Like that is a troubled man. But like I need something in this film frankly kind of like First Reformed, where he does something priestly, where he goes off to someone and cares for somebody or something like that, or even a character waxing poetic about things Henry has done for him in supporting them or something like that. But there isn't that. And so I wish there was just like something to broaden his character more, which would then add more conflict to his character, because he could be a very good conflicted character like most priests can be. And I think that there's room on the table for that. That could have been there. It's 2 hours already. Might as well push it.
Hearing you bring this up, this may be a weird comparison, but I'm thinking of Tar, where you get scenes where Lydia's actually a really phenomenal, like...
Right, she has talent.
She's very, very good.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, like she's good at what she does. She's awful in so many ways, but she's actually very good at what she does. So you have even kind of something that gives you something to root with along with this terrible character. You're like, no, I want her to be able to actually put on this production. I want her to be able to direct it and care for it. And it sounds exciting because she's excited for it and she's really good at it. And then you see all of the other things that she does as kind of in spite of the good that she's able to provide in her talents.
It's the nature of tragedy that like, and this film isn't a tragedy, it's a Christmas movie, so you know how it's going to end. But like, the nature of tragedy is that like, if they continue down the route of self-destruction and evil, the potential within themselves is squandered. And that's tragic. Here, Henry just doesn't have much going for him in terms of what I would presume are positives. He's obviously a well-to-do man. They have a pretty nice place. He has employees and servants. I don't know what's common for that era, but I think it's coded as like, you know, he's a well-off guy.
Yeah.
But he's just not as much depth as I would like for a film that is about an angel responding to his prayer.
Yeah. I mean,
and I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Something that hits weird to me too, and I don't feel like this is too spoilery, but Julia essentially has a line to Henry at some point saying, "Oh, well, you know, I'm the bishop's wife. I better get used to this." Like, to the ways that he's treating her and like not actually being present. And so, I mean, there's something about that that's just kind of limp-wristed to me and doesn't seem like it pulls as much out of it as what I would like.
So what did the movie evoke in you?
Really, for me, I feel like this is just similar to my initial thoughts. What it evoked in me is I can't separate it in my mind and get it away from the comparison to other holiday movies. There's just not enough emotional weight here to keep me invested in the bishop's wife. I'm thinking of It's a Wonderful Life. I'm thinking of A Christmas Carol. I'm thinking of The Grinch. I'm thinking of A Christmas Story. I'm not actually connecting with the bishop's wife. That wasn't like my experience in watching this film. I think I'm totally fine with it being a one and done. Another thing it evoked in me is I think it's interesting to see Christmas films interpret religion or use traditional religious imagery and concepts. This one is one of the more overt ones that does that.
Oh, yeah.
The bishop's wife really tries to make a point about what true love and true charity looks like. You know, giving to those that are less fortunate, spending time with your loved ones, slowing down to recognize needs and actually meet them. But I really didn't emotionally connect, even though I understand the thesis of the movie, you know?
Yeah, it's the Henry problem, right? Like, I want to see a character do what they think is right, but then by the end, we see that they have actually learned what is right. And I get that that's kind of the movie, right? He thinks it's the right thing to take care of, to build this church. But it's so obviously coded that that's the wrong choice from the start. So, like, that's not challenging to me. And I would like it to be a little more challenging. I might be barking up the wrong tree, right? Like, okay, come on, Melvin. Didn't you know what The Bishop's Wife is about? It's a silly movie. It's a dancing movie. It's a singing movie, whatever. But, like, I don't know. I think that would have added more depth. I think that would have been more interesting, especially if it's going to have more overt Christian themes, because that's what evoked in me, too. Like, it evoked a lot more overtly Christian themes compared to something like It's a Wonderful Life, which is a better movie and I think better captures Christian themes,
Mm-hmm.
but this one I think is a bit more blunt in throwing out certain Christian language or certain Christian visuals or moments.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it, but
I think too, it would have been more interesting if we were posed with questions or posed with things to think about, like Henry potentially doing the wrong thing but thinking it's for the right reasons. More like intent on that. Not just, oh, it's good to build God's church, but like, well, if we have this new cathedral, then there's a bigger place for the choir and more people will get involved. Or like, you know, give me some of the reasoning. Give me something else besides just Henry going, big building, cool.
yeah, it's frustrating that we don't have even more of his, like more of his delusion as to why that's the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like there isn't more beyond, well, we need it. Well, the building's fault. We need a new building. It's like I just want more depth. I want more. But the film's so stuck up Dudley's butt that it wants to keep doing things with him, and I don't want to spend time there. Like
you're sick of his trench coat. You're sick of his perfectly combed hair. You're sick of his chiseled jawline.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like watching the movie, I enjoyed it for what it was. It wasn't great, and I don't hate the film. We're producing a show, so I'm hyperbolizing because it's fun. but it is frustrating that that's the case. For me, it evoked, like I stated, it's like a more overtly, bluntly Christian version of It's a Wonderful Life. There's a lot of similar themes. So to start with, like in terms of why I'm comparing them or thinking of it, you have this man who has a profound desire for something outside himself, but he can't seem to attain it. Although unlike George Bailey, Henry Brougham spends the film continually pursuing this desire, even at the expense of others. Whereas George Bailey keeps getting close and then has to get pulled back because he makes a decision for the sake of someone else. And even just thinking about it, I'm going to tear up. Like,
yeah.
It's so sweet.
Everything
it's
he does, everything he does is, oh, well, let me put the other person in front of me.
And I love that film shows how hard that is for him. Henry doesn't get that. There is nothing like that really in this movie. And it's a different movie. That's fair. But in terms of like where the film is going with that is different, but it's still quite similar. This film also is advocating for the importance of our fellow man and our fellow relationships with them therein, while it's also kind of in opposition to non-relational desires, or basically how idols can kind of cause turmoil and strife. And then also there's this overt involvement of the spiritual, like angels, miracles, or magic. I mean, Dudley is to Clarence as Henry is to George. And then in terms of how this film, The Bishop's Wife, at least as I perceive it, is a bit more bluntly Christian, there's constant Christian allusions and imagery going on. Dudley being an angel, consistently being in the film. It's also set during Christmas, and so there's that. And because it's set during Christmas, I thought of Zechariah's lack of faith in the scriptures, where Zechariah has this lack of faith and understanding when an angel comes to tell him that the Messiah is coming and your wife will have a son, and that son will be like the herald, John the Baptist. And it's the wife that believes that this will take place, not the husband, because in this film, Henry doesn't quite believe Dudley's an angel. And Julia doesn't know it's an angel, but Julia enjoys Dudley and is hopeful and faithful and patient. And so that to me seems similar. There's an ice skating scene that kind of made me think of Peter walking on water, because Dudley is encouraging them to come ice skate. And the characters are filled with doubt, but then they learn they can do it. And it's also a very fun experience. And then you actually pointed this one out, but there's a character who describes not being able to understand some text, but then after interacting with Dudley and getting some insight, he's able to discern it better, which sounded very much like the theological idea of the Holy Spirit helping you to discern the scriptures as God's word. What did you see, or did you catch anything else, or what do you think on what I said? Pick any of those three questions. Go for it.
So I think the one thing, and this isn't too spoilery, there is a significant coin that Professor Wuthering gives to Julia. He's like, hey, I can't donate much to the cathedral. I'm not really a religious guy. take this little tiny coin that I got the last time I was in Rome.
Oh, right. That's another image.
You know, maybe it'll give you luck. And he says specifically it's a widow's mite. Like the idea of like the widow, the story of the widow who gives like her last penny to the church, and how that's so much more than like someone who would give an exorbitant amount. So there are other things peppered throughout if you're listening for it or looking out for it. And also there are some like really weird mismatches of stories throughout. Like Dudley tries to tell the birth of Christ story to the young daughter, but it's like mixing together like some King David stuff with also like Christ's birth. Everything is flavored Christian, but it doesn't always kind of come off in the right way.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird movie. I think, if anything, to take from the non-spoiler section of this discussion, it's that ultimately, this is kind of a weird Christmas movie. Like, it's an inoffensive one, and it's largely consumable. 2 hours is pushing it, but, you know, whatever. But it's weird. It's weird.
You may not know this, but the easiest way you can show your support for Cinematic Doctrine is to rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. So press pause and share your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And then press play again so you can hear the rest of the show.
Yeah, let's do it. So we're going to go into spoiler-specific things. So if you haven't seen this movie from 1947, that is a popular, or I would say somewhat popular Christmas movie. I mean, I guess you would be like me 2 weeks ago when I didn't even know this movie existed. So if you're like me and you don't want to hear specifics or spoilers, come back later after you see the movie, you dingus. But if you don't care about spoilers or you have seen the movie, stick around. We have some further thoughts to explore. So the first of the two prompts, recurring motifs and prominent significant moments and or characters. What did you think?
Yeah, so for me, I feel like the biggest recurring topic or recurring motif that I saw throughout the film, or rather this recurring theme, that there's a lack of connection in the excuse of building greatness. So Henry isn't necessarily a compassionate or caring person from my point of view. The movie didn't really sell that to me. So it's hard for me to root for him or empathize for him. And I think that my own lack of connection with Henry as a character is also indicative of like Henry's own ability to connect with people in his life. You know, for instance, some of these ways in which he's lacking that connection, he's neglecting that connection because he thinks he's building something great in the cathedral. You know, for instance, the biggest one is he promises a day out with his wife and child after he's gotten into an argument with his wife. Like, hey, let's just take a day for us. We've been stressing too much about this cathedral thing. But then as soon as the wealthy widow, Mrs. Hamilton, calls him, he cancels his family plans the day of to go chase after her checkbook. Like, that's like the most awful thing. At multiple points throughout the movie, I was just like, why is Julia with Henry? And not only that, but Henry has his maidservant who gives him this gorgeous scarf for Christmas last year that's been gathering dust in the closet. Like, she's gone out of her way to think about him, to show appreciation to him.
Yes.
And he's thoughtlessly postponing the dinners on a regular basis because he's trying to like solicit all these wealthy people for money. So like the whole house is operating in service to Henry and not the other way around. Like, we don't ever see Henry providing a type of servant leadership, which is like such a buzzword, but like that's what people in Christian spaces would say is like the pinnacle of masculine care for the family. Like that masculine care is supposed to mirror Christ's own servanthood towards his people and the way he lays down his life for those people and the way he thinks about those people and shows care for those people. And so like all that to say, like there's a lot here with Henry's character where he's constantly thinking of people in like these transactional ways instead of like actually connecting with them, having real relational moments with them. And he is opting in to go do the more transactional work of the church in soliciting the money than he is to actually spending time with his family or his friends or in his household just resting. Like, he always tells Dudley, like, Dudley, you go, I'm going to go do the thing that's important because I can't trust you with it. And then Dudley's like, okay, that's fine. I'll go do all the relational stuff. And really the crux of the movie is like Henry is missing out on all of that. Like that's the important work.
This is sort of something I wanted to spend a lot of time kind of getting notes and preps for, but it sounds like thank God for you, Kathryn, in more ways than one, but you're able to collect some of these kind of thoughts yourself. But like, one of the things here is that Henry, it's almost as though he doesn't actually believe this church can be built without his involvement, which is not how God's church works. God's church is built without us all the time. And how he builds his church is these servant leadership. It's not like getting people to do the work for you or getting enough money to do this, that, or whatever. It's serving others in kindness and goodness and patience and self-control. And in time that does it. And of course you still have to share the gospel. The Great Commission is clear. Share the gospel, baptize in his name, go out and do this. But his devotion to this earthly desire, this earthly building that will waste away in due time and be forgotten, is just like, it's so frustrating. It never really feels like he gets to that point where he gets that. In my opinion, I think the movie wants to tell you that that's where he gets to. And like, I think the movie, for the most part, does tell the audience that that's where you ought to be. But the movie, I don't think, is strong enough to say that Henry is a changed man who finally understands that it's not that he needs to be in sackcloth and beating his breast and doing servant things for others. It's just that he's not even good at doing the bare minimum of what he needs to do to honor the Lord.
Dude doesn't know how to manage a calendar. If you booked a date with your wife, that calendar date that's cooked. You can meet with the person tomorrow. He
is not even able to take care of his household, which is one of the expectations of pastoral leadership in the epistles. So like, if he can't take care of his own calendar management, how is he supposed to tell people about this is what's sinful and this is what's not sinful, and I'm going to help you through this journey towards redemption? Like, it's so it's just incomplete. Like it's all like the pieces are all there. They're all like, but it's not done. It's not finished.
And I mean, I have thoughts kind of going into the ending about where I'm on the same wavelength with you about Henry not really getting the point. But really for me, I think this is another missed opportunity. But in watching The Bishop's Wife, I was thinking of our recent reading in 2 Samuel, where David is basically going to the Lord and he's saying like, hey, I want to build you a temple. Doesn't that sound great? I'm living in this really nice castle, like not castle, but like this nice cedar building, like this equivalent of like a king's castle myself. I want to do something nice for the Lord and make him a temple. And like Henry in this way is also kind of convinced like, I have to make this huge monument for like our church to matter, for people to like know. Like I don't even think like Henry's response kind of doesn't seem online with David's, because Henry's just kind of like, I just need the building. Whereas David's is kind of, I want to honor the Lord. But God's response even to David was, and this is from 2 Samuel 7, God's response to David was, are you the one to build me a house to dwell in? Have I not dwelt in a house from the day that I brought the Israelites up out of Egypt to this day? I've been moving to place with a tent as my dwelling. Wherever I've moved with all the Israelites, did I ever say to any of the rulers who I commanded to shepherd my people Israel, why have you not built me a house of cedar? God is just like super overt in telling David, like, I don't need this. You know, you think this is what I need. That's not what I need. And so like The Bishop's Wife never gets to a point where like Henry kind of gets that, you know?
The film being like, we're building a church. I'm thinking of Acts, the book of Acts, because I'm thinking of post Christ ascension. You go into Acts and it's the historical count of like the birth of the Christian church and how it's just post Christ has scattered and now is where we are today. The idea of church building and stuff like that, notwithstanding, like I think if you're a Christian who is educated in biblical teaching and studying, you can't watch this movie without thinking about that. But also, what is a church? It's like a temple. What is a temple? If not, then making me think of what is God's temple now? Well, it's the people he presides within. So you don't need money to build a building. And thankfully, at the end of the film, it's pretty clear that it's like, no, don't spend $4 million trying to build this church. Spend $4 million doing some sort of social work to care for those in need. And it's a hand wavy how it kind of resolves it, because we haven't seen anyone really in a state of suffering in the film. Everyone's pretty happy and okay. But that is caring for the Lord's temple, is when you care for your fellow man. Because you might not be caring for someone who outright in the moment says Christ is Lord, but like, you don't know if in the future eventually that they will. And so you still want to pour into, and you don't pour into people because you think they'll do the thing that you hope they do, which is say Christ is Lord. You pour into people because it's the right thing to do. And that's what servanthood is like. Christ was serving even to Judas, and he knew exactly what was going to happen with that. So like, just Henry needs to do that. He needs to care for his fellow man, and he couldn't even care for his wife and child. And so, yeah, I needed conflict. I needed him to have more internal conflict and strife in a way that was like, he has some goodness in him, but he kind of doesn't have any. So you just sort of accept it for what it is. It's a light little comedy. It's 2 hours. Christmas. I love Christmas. Yay, presents, whatever. But
a light little 2-hour comedy.
I know. Light for classic Hollywood.
Enjoying this episode? Grab that share link and tell your friends. Word of mouth is the most effective way for a podcast to reach new listeners, so don't be shy. Share the episode wherever you can.
Do you want to just move on to the ending? We'll get into the ending. Because honestly, that's where the spicy stuff is. That's where the weird stuff starts.
Let's finally define weird. So Melvin, please define what's weird about this movie.
Well, listener, if you have seen the title of this episode, which I have already written into my the app that I use for posting podcast episodes, the title of the episode is The Bishop's Wife - Cucked by an Angel. Because that's what the ending of the movie is. That's what the movie is. It's very Shakespearean in that way. But the man who, of course, coined the term. But so even on the poster, Henry has been cucked by Cary Grant, although it never is fulfilled. But on the cover is Cary Grant Dudley with the bishop's wife skating and dancing together. And at the end of the movie, Dudley is like, I already have to leave because Henry has finally learned and gotten guidance. Now he knows what to do, what's right. He knows that building the church is not a literal physical monument act that you do, but a service. It is a kindness you do for others. So Dudley's like, all right, I'm peace. I'm out. But also he has a conversation with Julia where he's like, you are heaven on earth. And he basically just like says, I love you.
Yeah.
And Julia is like caught off guard and is just like, no, I can't do this, and runs away. And there was already like things the film peppered in to sort of imply like this married woman is going out with an angel that she doesn't know is an angel. And so then you're like, but if it's an angel, surely the angel won't fall in love with Julia. Surely only Julia would perhaps get some feelings. It's just weird that this movie does that and goes all the way. I was like sort of hoping the movie might try and do something about like, and this is very Gen Z of me, but to have a like, oh, they'll just going to have this cross-gendered platonic relationship, and it's honestly going to just be very pleasant. And it'll be to Henry's shame that he actually thought this angel was trying to hook up with his wife. Nope. That's kind of where the movie was trying. The angel at the end was like, yeah, I had to go because your wife is smoking, dude. I love her. She's the best. Like, you should have seen her when she was skating. It was wonderful. And so like, it's just like, it's what I just like when we finished the movie, I think we both commented like, why did do that?
Yeah.
Like, why did the movie go there?
Yeah.
It's so strange.
And
go ahead.
What's annoying too is throughout the movie, like we get these scenes where Julia and Dudley are out to lunch together, and Julia's like, oh, well, but Dudley makes the offer like, oh, I'll take you out to lunch. It's the restaurant that you want to go to. It's the restaurant you had planned to go to with Henry. I'll take you on his behalf. Julia's like, oh, what? I could never. Like, what would people think? And he's like, no, just friends. It'll be okay. And then they go out in public and they have dinner, and he's like, oh, kind of like low-key flirting with her. And then there are some church ladies in a table behind them that are like looking, and they're like, there's just all these moments where it's like everything is framed as if Dudley is in this kind of like quasi-romantic sort of situationship. And the whole movie is so suggestive about all of that at no point was I thinking, oh, Dudley actually has feelings for her. I'm like, oh, Dudley's being very kind to her. Dudley is doing what Henry would do to like bring her joy outside of like, kissing her on the lips, taking her home.
My brain is just like breaking apart.
Yeah. And it's very like, it makes me kind of icked out because he's quasi omniscient. So like he knows everything. And then also like every single woman in the movie is like falling over him. So it's just, I think and this is maybe whatever, like the ladies being attracted to him and thinking he is the bee's knees. I'm like, oh, that makes sense because he's a heavenly angelic being, right? But the opposite, where he is actually then interested in Julia, that just does not feel right. It does not feel comedic. And also like the fact that Henry at no point is really learning his lesson about what it actually means to build the church and be present for people and be charitable and love people. Henry's still over there fuming in his office like, like I wonder where I'm going to get that $4 million from. And Dudley's like making a move on his wife in front of the Christmas tree.
It's not played as a gag either.
No,
it's played as drama.
Sincere.
So like it wants you to weep and like, or feel something. And I'm just feeling the ick, bro. Like, It's not good. Any last thoughts you got on The Bishop's Wife?
Yeah, so I mean, to kind of backpedal a bit prior to Cary Grant making a move on The Bishop's Wife, I really enjoyed, and I thought it was going to end more succinctly, with the scene between Mrs. Hamilton and Dudley. Mrs. Hamilton, our rich widow.
Oh, I liked this scene a lot.
I wish that this scene had occurred between Henry and the widow, even though like Dudley's apparently the only one that can ever get anything accomplished in this universe. This is really a scene that highlights like a part of Henry's issue too. Isn't just the fact that he really wants to build this building. It's the fact that he wants to be expedient about everything. Like Henry's interaction with Mrs. Hamilton, he's expecting, he's like, it's going to be like a 15-minute thing. I'm going to be able to get in, get out. I'm going to make it to the boys' choir performance.
Yo, the amount of times I've heard that.
Right. So like he's trying to hurry through it. And Henry's experience with Mrs. Hamilton is embarrassing because he gets stuck to a chair. Like he doesn't pay attention. Miraculously, he gets stuck to a chair. But Henry's willing to like do everything that she wants, which is, oh, my dead husband, when you make the saint in the stained glass part of the cathedral, I want the face to look like my dead husband's face. And Henry's like, oh, sure, we'll do that. Anyways, that's just like in contrast to Dudley's experience with Mrs. Hamilton, where Dudley actually gets to know her. He plays a piece of music that reminds her of someone that she loved. He listens to her tell him about like the man that she truly loved, and then the man that she ended up getting married to, and then the man that she was married to, and the man that she wants to, build this cathedral for is someone that she never truly loved. And she only married because of the money, because she was afraid of being poor. And so like, that's just such a heart-touching moment, and like circles back to the widow's mite that Professor Wutheridge originally gives to Julia and Henry, where this rich widow decides, actually, my pennies should be going towards feeding the poor, caring for like the people that actually need it, versus like building a memorial to a man that I didn't even love.
Widows and orphans. Yeah. The minimum.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, unfortunately, I think I'm just going to remember this movie as a movie where an angel eventually wanted to have an affair with a married woman.
Yep.
And I am left feeling slightly like I have, not as intensely, but slightly like I have with other stories like Spike Jonze's Her, where I feel like Henry hasn't learned his lesson or made any real changes. The end of the movie just stops with Henry like still complaining to Dudley like, oh great, see what you did, like I'm not going to get my $4 million because now the widow's going to donate $1 million to charity. Dudley's like, okay, whatever, man, I'm going to make you forget that I ever visited you and things are just going to be better. and then he just magics Henry into forgetting that Dudley ever visited, and Henry just kind of magically loves his wife better and goes on to read a sermon that he didn't write because Dudley wrote the sermon for him too. And then, like,
very strange.
Presumably, like, Henry's going to kind of reluctantly manage this money towards actual charity.
Dudley's the worst character in the show. He's the worst character of the movie. Like, it's just, why is he ruins the whole movie.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it's so annoying because, like, also Dudley just kind of magics away stuff, and like Henry never gets that light bulb moment. He doesn't have like the Scrooge on Christmas morning thing. And I really liked that Mrs. Hamilton has that moment where she's like,
yes.
Actually, my values have been in the wrong place. And what's important here is that I care for my neighbor. Yeah, it's very disappointing to me that we don't get that with Henry. Dudley's just kind of a weirdo creep at the end. And Julia's also got like forget-me-now amnesia that Dudley ever visited. Like, what did she think happened over the last 3 days?
Hey there, listener. Want to influence the podcast? Head on over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine and support the show for $3 a month. In doing so, you'll be able to vote on a movie poll that picks a film we discuss each month. So jump on over there and have your voice heard.
Anyways, we should probably wrap it up. Listener, you don't know this, but we just had a connectivity issue, so we're kind of worried if we lost stuff. So we're just going to wrap it up before we have more connectivity issues. But we basically had the end of our thoughts. Because, yeah, I agree. The Miss Hamilton stuff I really liked at the end. It was touching. I didn't get teary-eyed, but I choked up a little bit, but it was good. Recommendation. What do you got?
Yeah, so I am back with another cookie recommendation. I know it's the end of the holiday season, well after once this is released. But we made, for Christmas this year, popcorn bucket cookies from New York Times Von Vreeland. This is the only cookie recipe I've seen that calls for your choice of either Sour Patch Kids or gummy bears. So, guys, next time you're in the mood for a sweet treat, give it a try.
And then I'm going to recommend the film Suspiria. My wife and I saw it on Halloween this year, and every now and then I remember that I did that, and I liked it. It's eerie. It utilizes every facet of film as a medium to guide your senses through this like mysterious tale of murder and magic. It's got this infectious, effective soundtrack that is used for the anxious moments. Instead of quiet silence, it just plays this music really loud, which is like it's like the same thing. It's so loud that you can't hear anything else, and it actually is quite freaky. There's also just really great shocking moments of incredible violence and gore that are just like, they're not like crazy Terrifier levels or even like some of the like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 levels, but they are gross. And then it's also just visually stunning, so absolutely check it out. Happy New Year.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Cinematic Doctrine. If you enjoyed the episode, give us 5 stars on whatever podcast app you're using. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe, too. We put out stuff like all the time. If you're listening on YouTube, hit that thumbs up and leave a comment. It helps the algorithm share our stuff around, and I see them, so I usually reply. Also, if you support on Patreon, you could have totally heard this episode early. There's a bunch of other benefits to supporting on Patreon, so head on over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine to learn more. Speaking of Patreon, thank you so much to our Art House Theater tier Patreon supporters. Thanks, Thomas, Shirley-Ann, Mom, and Dad. Your support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, stay cool.